Hello, everybody, and welcome in to another episode of the Couch GMs podcast. It's Thursday, September 18th, 2025. I'm your host, George Kirch. I'm by the one and only Cody Roadcap. And Cody, it is already week 3. It's flying so far already.
Yeah, man, it's crazy how fast this. I feel like we say it every year, but it is crazy how fast the NFL season goes.
It is. We're already getting a groove in fantasy, and we had some great matchups already, even more coming up this week. We'll talk plenty about matchups, fantasy, injuries, all that coming. But in the meantime, if you guys have any questions, make sure you drop them in the chat and join us Mondays and Thursdays at 6:30 East to get even more than you do from the show, and follow us at the Couch GMs on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok to get even more than you do while we're live. I think let's just jump right in, Cody. What's happening? Guess the biggest news coming out that's non-injury related has to do with the Washington Commanders getting a stadium in DC approved at the old RFK Stadium site, expected to open in 2030.
I saw this. Good. I think we all knew they need a new stadium. Is it going to have a dome?
I heard it was considered multi-use, so I would guess yes.
At least retractable. That'd be my guess
At
too.
least retractable or a full dome, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, but why am I blanking? It's not FedEx anymore, but whatever their stadium name is, not a great stadium. It's time for an upgrade. Get the Commanders back in DC. Should be great.
I think so too. I don't really have much to say here except it was an inevitable. It's happening. They really need it. And I'm sure we'll have more talk probably in the off season when we get even more details on what the stadium's going to look like and what's happening.
Yeah, and nothing official yet either too, but it does sound like that the Bears are making headway to move out of Soldier Field into their new dome stadium in Arlington Heights, I believe. So that could be another new stadium coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, we have that. We have the Bills opening a new one next year. We can have an episode in the offseason just talking about new stadiums and
all these new stadiums.
Yeah.
The Holy Grail is still Lambeau Field.
Yes. I mean, they've done so many things with that to keep it relevant throughout the years, and it's just historical at this point.
I would agree. But you want to start talking about the not so fun stuff on today's episode?
The not so fun stuff on today's episode. We have plenty of injuries to talk about. Some of these going to circle back on things we talked about on Monday, but we get to talk a little bit more fantasy implication or have some updates now. Starting off, just want to touch on Joe Burrow, who is scheduled to get surgery tomorrow or Friday, if you're listening to this on Friday. If swelling allows, they might end up pushing it back a couple of days, and then he has that 3-month recovery period coming up after that. So we're sitting here now looking at week 3 and beyond for most of the fantasy season and the playoffs. And you've had a couple more days to sit on it. Are we still on the whole Jamar Chase is startable every week? Same with Chase Brown, but we're worried about T. Higgins?
Yeah, I think I'm still full confidence in Jamar Chase. T. Higgins will have a game here or there. I think the consistency, I mean, he's never been like the most consistent guy, but that's still going to be the big question mark. But you're not going to have the, big offensive outputs that you expect with Joe Burrow. The good news is Browning is a little bit of that gunslinger mentality. And I even heard not Bengals fans saying Browning is better than Joe Burrow, not even close. But there is some people that think that Burrow takes sacks versus just throwing the ball up. So it's like well, if you're going to throw the ball up and you have guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, maybe there is a couple extra opportunities, but there's also a couple extra opportunities for interceptions and stuff like that too. So it's definitely a give or take, but they're still going to have to pass it. Their defense still looks improved, but still not great. So they're going to have to score points to compete. And we went through the predictions on how many games we think they could win on Monday's show, so we don't have to rehash that.
Exactly. Sounds good. But maybe it works out for the fantasy assets that if they're throwing the ball up more, they might actually have some more decent games. But it's going to be wait and see, and it's probably going to be more inconsistent than it is with Joe Burrow in there. But we'll have to see what happens. I have an update on Aaron Jones here as well, as he was placed on injured reserve with his hamstring injury. Wasn't expected to be that serious, but now we got the Jordan Mason show for at least 4 weeks.
And I believe they also brought back Cam Akers. So that they Vikings seem to really like Cam Akers. That I feel like he's their like go-to guy to go out and get whenever injury strikes or they need a second option. But I wonder if it becomes a three-headed backfield when Aaron Jones does get back.
Yeah, I think when Jones gets back, I'm concerned, but in the short term, Jordan Mason for 4 weeks, I think, is going to be solid. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of Cam Akers feeding in, at least not the first week or two.
Yeah, I think the bigger concern for Jordan Mason is just how good is this offense going to be. You saw 7 pretty bad quarters with JJ McCarthy. Now, JJ McCarthy is not expected to play the next 2 to 4 weeks because of a high ankle sprain. So Carson Wentz is going to be in there, who is on his 6th team in 6 years. So I have concerns about, not only Jordan Mason, who you think would get a boost for, the lack of Aaron Jones, but guys like Justin Jefferson. Obviously, you're still playing him, but he hasn't been that high end guy that we hoped in the first round. Jordan Addison is going to get worked back in there after the week 3 game when his suspension is up. But like Adam Thielen hasn't really done anything. Josh Naylor, TJ Hawkinson's been pretty quiet. And I don't know if Carson Wentz is going to be that much of a big difference maker over JJ McCarthy, although JJ McCarthy did play pretty bad outside of the fourth quarter of that Bears game in week 1.
He did. They have a lot of question marks there in Minnesota. Carson Wentz isn't going to solve a lot of that. But I think we're at the point right now where I'm cool with playing Jordan Mason and we're playing Justin Jefferson. And other than that, like, I'm even worried about Addison, like you said, when he comes back, just because I don't know if them bringing back Thielen is going to kind of dilute it a little bit. If it's, Thielen's just kind of there for Phil and he's not going to really have any impact beyond when Addison gets back, or if they even have the offensive firepower to support the 2 wide receivers like they have in the past.
That's a good point too, just with how much are they getting worked in. But if you are a fantasy owner out there and you have Justin Jefferson, are you trying to sell him? Do you think his value is too low to get the return that is worth it? If you don't have Justin Jefferson, is he a guy that you're like potentially trying to buy low on?
I think he's somebody I'm trying to buy low on. There's no denying that, like, he's played with many different quarterbacks in his career and he's never really done poorly. Maybe not as high of a value as, you picking him 5th in the draft and that first round output, but he's always been solid. So I think if you can go out there and try to get him at a discount, perfect time to do that. When it comes to if I'm somebody that has him, I'm being very stingy on what that package I get back is, or I'm holding him. Because I do think you're either holding him for that big game and then you can try to sell him for the bigger package, being like, look, he's still got that potential, or look, he's back, and hope that he keeps it up. But I'm concerned about him living up to the like pick 4, pick 5 price tag. So far, and then seeing the quarterback situation, I'm more of a buy low, but if I have him, I'm trying to be stingy.
All righty. Another quarterback injury that is looking like he's going to miss this week is Jaden Daniels. Had not practiced Wednesday or Thursday. Sounds like no long-term concerns, but he is going to miss this week. What are your thoughts on that one?
I don't think it affects the Commanders all that much. Like, obviously it does. It's Jaden Daniels, but I mean, they have Marcus Mariota in there, who we know can run the offense. They're facing the Raiders. Your fantasy assets in Washington were already kind of, not having the greatest year, so I don't think it's really going to affect them too much in that category. But I think I kind of like the fact that Jaden Daniels is getting the week to rest up, and I mean, it was already a long week too. To make sure that this isn't something that's going to linger or turn into a bigger injury down the road. So not really much concern for this week. I'm already kind of on the fence, and if like we should be starting Terry McLaurin after the rough start. Deebo Samuel's been kind of the main guy so far, and I don't know if I want to have him in my lineup, but I do like Zach Ertz this week. So kind of where are you at on the 2 wide receivers and Ertz?
Hold please, and let's have that conversation in a little bit.
Okay. Sounds good to me. We're going to go on to San Francisco. Brock Purdy is a limited participant in practice dealing with his toe and shoulder issue. It sounds like if he is active, he is not going to be starting, but he could play as either backup or emergency backup for San Francisco this week. So we're expecting another week of Mac Jones. And are you expecting kind of the same there?
Yeah, I think Mac Jones played well enough. I know it was against the Saints, where this week the 49ers have the Cardinals, who are undefeated at this time. They looked really good until they didn't against the Panthers. So I think Mac Jones would be serviceable. Like he's like borderline like streamable for me
Mhm.
this week. I think there's some better options out there. But I do think, your Christian McCaffrey is still in your lineup, but there's still a ton of question marks on, do you trust Ricky Pearsall? Do you trust Juwan Jennings? Do you trust Jake? What's his name? Jake Tongs? I don't know
Tongs.
how
I think
Tongs.
Tongs. Could be
Yeah,
tongues. I don't know.
I don't even know how to pronounce it. Well, I don't know how to pronounce a lot of things, so most people know that. So for me, it's like, which one do you like better? Are you a Pearsall guy, a Juwan Jennings guy? Jennings had the touchdown last week. Pearsall had on week 1. If you think you're going to go back and forth, maybe Pearsall's your answer. Maybe you think Jennings being healthy, he supersedes Pearsall and you want to roll with him. But I think they're both like flex considerations at best.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I like Jennings more than Pearsall this week just because it seems like Purdy liked Pearsall, but I think Jones' safety net looks like so far has been Jennings. So I'm going to go with the guy who I think the quarterback's favoring, which is why I lean there. But I think both are in flex consideration.
Yep, I would agree with that.
All right. Moving to New York with the Jets. Justin Fields is dealing with a concussion. They already ruled him out for week 3. Cody, cracking open that soda there for us.
I am not a sponsor, so I got to drink it like this.
Yeah.
Hopefully
But so Justin Fields out week 3. Were you out on your Jets weapons then?
Yeah, it's definitely tough, but I think you'll be hard pressed to find a bigger Tyrod Taylor fan than myself. So,
Oh yeah.
roll out Garrett Wilson, roll out Brees Hall. You're good to go.
I mean, Garrett Wilson didn't have a great game last week either, which is why I'm concerned. But I don't think you can bench him because you know the potential.
Yeah, and Tyrod will have the full week to prepare. If anything, like if you asked me to pick one or the other, like if for some reason you had both and you're picking one flex spot, I'd probably still lean Garrett Wilson. Just because this Buccaneers team, they're always hard to run against with Vita Vea in the middle. So that does give me a little bit pause for concern when a guy's like Brees Hall, especially as you get closer to the red zone, it's harder to get touchdowns. So that's why I tend to lean Wilson for the Jets options.
But Brees Hall's still in your lineup most places that you have them. So
yeah, I just think there's not a lot of great running backs, and Brees Hall is like borderline great running back. So
he is. He's one of the few guys that gets majority workload too. So I mean, like you're gonna have duds like you do with some of the guys in that tier, but he's got the workload that he's gonna get you points most weeks. A position where you don't have points most weeks. And the guy who had his breakout last week, Tucker Kraft, suffered a knee injury in practice on Thursday. Being evaluated, we're told it's not expected to be a long-term issue and that he should be fine. I don't know if that means he should be fine for week 3 or if it means that he should be fine long-term. We're going to have to find a lot out on the Friday practice report.
yeah, and literally just a couple minutes ago, they put out a little bit of an update that everything came back good, more of a scare. He should be good to go, but maybe they hold him out a week just to be safe. So I do think it gives you like pause for concern if he is active and but limited. Like tight end is already such a hard position. Like, do you want to chase those points with a guy that might only play 50% of the snaps, or do you think they're only going to put him in the red zone and give him those touchdown opportunities? Like, it's a back and forth question. I would tend to lean on the side of caution and probably not play Tucker Kraft this week, even if he is active, because I don't know if he'll be 100% after this knee shakeup.
It's part of me, unless I hear that he's either out or extremely limited, I would play him because you're at a position where the guy you're going to get instead is probably not going to get you anything anyway. So, like, I'll take the shot that Kraft only plays red zone snaps and gets a touchdown as opposed to going out there and getting somebody else who hasn't done anything all year.
All right. Well, I'll play devil's advocate there. And literally, as the person that opened a brand new crisp Tucker Kraft jersey last Thursday night before the game, and then
That's good luck. There you go.
well, it was until I thought he like had a significant knee injury today.
Yeah.
But breakout game. Love Tucker Kraft. And I hear what you're saying. Like, it's the tight end position. So there might be guys that it's just worth playing him on. And I would agree with some of them, but let me give you a couple names to see where you fall on him. So Tucker Kraft, and we're assuming limited. If they say Tucker Kraft good to go, I'm playing him over all these guys. But we're assuming limited, or in the case that he's out, then obviously you're going to pick this guy. But Tucker Kraft, Evan Ingram.
Probably Kraft.
Okay. Tucker Kraft, Juwan Johnson.
Juwan Johnson's done enough in the first 2 weeks for me to have to say him.
Tucker Kraft or Kyle Pitts Sr.
It's his year. You're going to do this to me. Realistically, I probably would still have to go Kraft.
And Tucker Kraft or Jake Ferguson against the Bears.
That's a tough one. I'll go Ferguson.
Okay. Again, that is the caveat that Kraft is limited, and we find that out that he's just not good to go.
Exactly. If he's out, you're obviously playing the other, and if he is full go, I'm playing him over pretty much every tight end in the league at this point. He's proven to me enough that he's involved in that Packers offense that I have confidence.
All right. What's next on the list?
Next on the list is an update on Xavier Worthy, who has continued to be limited participation in practice, and we're unsure if he's going to go with the shoulder brace this week. I guess it's a brace. But if he does go, is he right back in your lineup in a great matchup?
Probably because he's playing the Giants. Because he was probably already your borderline flex guy, right? He was
Yeah.
Maybe if you were in a deeper 12, 14 man league, you went early quarterback or tight end, he was like your wide receiver too. But I think he is back in your lineup because they just need pieces. They need help.
Yes, they need help. And he is the best option that they have on that team that's not named Rashee Rice, who's obviously still out for a few more weeks with the suspension. They have continued to just look bad passing the ball. Last week was no different. So I think even just taking the risk of him getting 2 catches, but he has a chance to break it to the house, I think is enough to give him flex consideration.
I would agree. I mean, you saw Tyreek Thornton last week catch a bomb. Xavier Worthy's going to be Tyreek Thornton. So
yeah, Thornton's only in there because Xavier Worthy wasn't.
Yeah. So,
fan question before we move on.
Yeah, always time for them.
Wonder who this is. I'm just gonna do that every time. Quinshon Judkins or Jalen Waddle in the World Cup. 0-2 and need someone to boom.
Well, that one sucks because you got to pick tonight.
Yes,
but it's pretty easy for me. It's Jalen Waddle.
I think the biggest boom right now is Waddle, and I like Judkins long term. I'm just still a little concerned if they're going to keep easing him in.
I mean, not to, we're doing start sits later. One of those names are on my list for a sit, and it's the running back. Just so you know, the Packers defense has not allowed 100 yards rushing yet. Not per game, but not yet. And I know Judkins had that big, his nice coming out, the 6 carries, 60 yards, 10 yards an average, but I think he's going to have a hard time against the Packers. So I would play Waddle. You expect the Dolphins to be down, chase some points, hope he gets in the end zone again.
I like it. I agree. And we can move on to the
side note.
Yeah.
Her being 0-2 could if that trend continues, could shake up a lot for the Couch Games World Cup. We'll have to do an update soon.
We do have to do an update soon. Yeah, she is the leader in wildcard standings, even yet after 0-2, but that's definitely could make it tighter. We'll update you guys as we go along in the season. I had on here Lad McConkey because he did not participate in practice on Wednesday. He was actually upgraded to a full participant on Thursday. But I think this opens up a conversation of like, Lad has had a bad start. And there's a lot of Quentin Johnston and rebirth of Keenan Allen in, LA. And are we concerned that Lad's going to kind of fall down into the abyss of all the targets in LA? And how are we starting them this week in a bad matchup?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some concern. Uh, I think this week will be more tell. It's still very early. Big caveat. I think this week will be telling. It is a bad match, a worse matchup as they play the Denver Broncos. They have Surtain on the outside. They have Jade Barron. Their defense is good. They haven't been playing as good. I mean, heck, they let the Daniel Jones light them up last week. So I think Justin Herbert can do the same. It's divisional. And, if McConkey has another week of, Keenan Allen being the red zone guy, Quentin Johnson getting the deep shot, and not really getting peppered with targets like we saw last year, I think there is real cause for concern for the guy you took at the end of the second round.
So you mentioned two guys at corner for them that I think primarily play outside. Lad plays in the slot. Does that mean that you're hoping that this is the Lad McConkey breakout game? If you think that the Chargers can still carve him up, or are you playing him and not the other two? I mean, we can kind of hold off if you want to a little bit here.
No, I'm still going to play Lad McConkey, but I have my concerns about it. And I mean, Jade Barron isn't technically even the starter. I just really like Jade Barron, but they still have Riley Moss and Jaquan McMillan playing really good corners. So I mean, they're deep at that position. So I have my reservations about all those guys, and it does seem like Keenan Allen is becoming the red zone target, which McConkey did a lot of work in the red zone last year as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we hope that McConkey can pick it back up and get some of those red zone targets, but I mean, get more involved in general. There's just so many targets going to other receivers that wasn't happening last year. That's why I'm concerned.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, and maybe we're hitting the panic button on McConkey next week.
Maybe we are. Maybe we'll have to do a panic button next week. That sounds like a good idea.
Dude, I'm so sorry. This is a little bit of pregame. I'm going to skip the next one because I just read it. Sean McVay tore his plantar fasciitis in his foot during the Titans game.
Yes, Sean McVay hurt his foot by tearing his plantar fascia during the Titans game.
That's kind of crazy.
I wish I had written down the quote. I saw it earlier in the week on Twitter too, and just totally missed it. He said something about like, if you see me limping on the sideline with a little more swag, that's why.
I also didn't know plantar fasciitis could be torn. I'm learning so
So
much.
the plantar fascia is like the name of the tendon at the bottom of your foot.
Yep, that's above my pay grade. I'm
I
just the
didn't know
dude
you
with the
get paid for
podcast.
medical advice. I'm thinking it's probably good if you don't.
I'm just the dude with the podcast.
I'm just to do with a podcast. We need to make a shirt with your face on it. This is I'm just to do with a podcast.
I'm down.
Cool. We'll do that. We're gonna move on to we had to stick in Green Bay. Seattle. Oh yeah, Green Bay. Jaden Reed, he got his foot surgery that we were talking about when he got his collarbone surgery, which means he's out indefinitely. I know he was gonna miss significant time with the collarbone injury, but now it may be longer since he decided to get surgery to fix the foot issue that he got in the preseason.
Yeah, it is worth noting that Matt LaFleur said getting both done doesn't affect his timeline. So you would still think if that is the case, you're looking at that 6 to 8 week window,
Mm-hmm.
which goes typical with the collarbone. And I would imagine it's closer to 8 weeks just because he did have surgery on it. So I think you can expect him out for at least the next 2 months, and we'll have to wait and see. It does with the news of Jaden Reed, potentially Tucker Kraft. Like, could we finally have the Matthew Golden breakout game? He was open a lot. last week. Could he finally start to get more involved? That intrigues me a lot.
That intrigues me a lot. I don't think it intrigues me enough to start him in redrafts, but I think it intrigues me enough to play him in DFS lineups. So I think he'd be a good cheap option. And I think it intrigues me to play a potential stream. He's not on my streams list, but a potential stream on Romeo Dobbs this week.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how the wide receiver room shakes out there.
Yes, we will. And then we're going to go to Seattle, which is one of our favorite running back rooms right now, where Zach Charbonnet did not practice Wednesday with a foot injury. I'll have a quick look at their injury report to see if they released Thursday by this time.
They
While
didn't.
you give a little reaction.
I guarantee it's Seattle. It is not
Exactly.
released. It's not going to be released till 9:00.
They are the bane of our existence when it comes to trying to do injury updates on a Thursday.
Yeah, because sometimes it'll be when we have to do the episode on Friday instead. Sometimes their Thursday still isn't out. I don't get it. But Zach Charbonnet, a little bit banged up. We talked about on Monday, though, like Ken Walker had a really strong second half. Did he get himself out of the doghouse? You have to think he takes advantage without Zach Charbonnet there as well.
You would think so. And yeah, no, their Thursday report is not out yet, but foot injury, did not practice on Wednesday. We obviously get to sit here and hope that Ken Walker gets a boost from it. And even yet, I think when he's back healthy, it's still going to be that 50-50 split that we hate. And that's why it's become one of our least favorite running back rooms.
Yeah. I still like Ken Walker over Zach Charbonnet when they're both healthy. Even though
I agree. I think there's more
upside. Charbonnet did outsnap him in the first half, though. That's always scary.
I don't know if that's going to continue, but if you end up telling me it goes 60-40 split in favor of Ken Walker, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Anything else with injuries before we move on, Cody?
No, man, we're like a half an hour in and we've only talked about injuries. We got a lot to get to.
Yes, we do. Why don't we talk about some starts and sits? All right. As we do every week, we are going to give a start and a sit each for running backs, wide receivers. Then we throw a flex on there. We can talk about a running back receiver, or we never talk about tight ends, but we can talk about tight ends if we really want to. I think your running back might fit right into where we were just talking, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, my running back was Ken Walker, and he was my start of the week before I realized Zach Charbonnet was potentially out. But after his second half last week, getting to play the Saints this week, they're back at home. Now adding the Charbonnet injury on top of it, I think Ken Walker is a home run, has top 5 running back of the week potential.
I have absolutely nothing to argue about there. He's right back in my lineups everywhere that I had started to worry about him and potentially benched him last week because matchup's great. And I mean, hopefully this gets him a little more clout where he gets a couple extra snaps, even after Charbonnet's back is what my hope is here.
I like it. Who's your start of the week?
My start of the week is someone I mentioned earlier too. I'm going to Minnesota and Jordan Mason. So we know they re-signed Cam Akers, but he has only been in the building for less than a week by the time this game's going to happen. Mason looked good in relief. Should be his backfield for the most part. I think this is the ideal week to hit the start on him.
Yeah, I like Jordan Mason a lot. Similar situation, just there appears to be a lot of opportunities, and when you get opportunities as running back, that's something we tend to look for.
Doesn't hurt they're playing the Bengals, who still don't have the greatest defense, but they have been hanging in a lot better than they were last year.
Yeah, that is going to be one interesting, potentially exciting game. Like, it's going to be exciting in the sense of like, what game we were watching last week? There was just 2 bad teams going at it. Like it could be like either Cardinals, Panthers, which some might say the Cardinals aren't a bad team, or like Cowboys, Giants. I don't know if it'll be as electric as that one, but just even Dolphins, Patriots, like those were 2 not great teams, but they made it exciting with back-to-back kick returns. So
Dolphins, Patriots, I think, is a great example of what this game could be.
All right, are you ready for my wide receiver start of the week?
I am.
I'm going with Marquise Hollywood Brown as a start of the week. I know this is kind of like borderline like stream of the week because he isn't one of the upper echelon guys, but we just talked about all the points that were given up against the Giants. Still not sure on Xavier Worthy. Hollywood has been getting the targets. I like him this week, even if Xavier Worthy goes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also a fan of Hollywood Brown. I don't even know how many leagues he's rostered in, honestly. I know he had a little bit of a waiver boom after week 1, but I didn't know if people had given up. Um, I think it's a little rich for my blood. I think there's plenty of other options that you convince me on over Hollywood Brown, but the matchup is good that he's probably someone not many people are thinking of.
Yeah, I just think it's a high upside, and not that you should pick your lineups by this. I say this every year, but he's a guy that if you go in down by 30 points, right? It's very unlikely he's going to hit 30. I'm not even he's my start of the week and I don't think he will. But in that matchup he could. So it at least always feel like you're in the game through Sunday night. But there's a lot of good players on Monday night, so you might have players left too. So
It's very true. And we'll see what happens there. But there's another potential injury update that goes with mine. So I have my wide receiver start of the week as a Buka. I just want to make sure we keep him on the radar because he has been probably the favorite target so far in Tampa Bay. Obviously, Mike Evans still gets plenty of his, but I know Ibuka is dealing with an injury right now too. So you might have to watch out for Friday injury report. But I think even yet, like if he's in and they don't talk about him being limited, he should be in your lineup.
I don't hate that at all. I mean, he has 3 touchdowns on the season so far. He's getting targeted. And he's a guy that if I think he was a first round pick, and we talked about this. Like I liked him a lot coming out of college. Like I think he's going to be very good. But this Buccaneers team, although they're getting very banged up across the offensive line, eventually Chris Godwin is going to be back. Eventually, even later in the season, Jalen McMillan is going to be back. Like, do they all start to get worked in? Targets start to thin out. Like, is Emeka Ibuka a guy? Obviously, I agree with you playing him this week, but maybe as we get closer to like the trade deadline, you hear the whims of Chris Godwin coming back. If he keeps putting up these stats, maybe he's a guy you try to trade at the highest point and get some other pieces for a playoff run.
I agree. This isn't the week to trade him. Number one, I think you can play him. Two, people might be worried about whatever he is on the injury report. But if he has another good week or 2 weeks, I think that's around where your window should be to sell him because Godwin's probably coming back when the calendar turns to October or a couple weeks after. Like it's right around there. And I don't really know about McMillan. I know he's on injured reserve, but he's looming. So I would try to move Ibuka before one or both of those guys come off of IR. And if he keeps doing what he's done the first few weeks, you can get a haul for him right now, I'm sure.
Yeah, I agree. But I will move back to mine and talk about my flex again. This guy falls in the flex category, but it does not have to be a flex category. But I'm going to go with one Mr. Alec Ayumanor this week. Another rookie, second round pick for the Tennessee Titans. He's seen at least 6 targets in both weeks. He had the touchdown last week, so he doesn't have as many outputs, but I think you're starting to build that trust with Cam Ward. Calvin Ridley hasn't taken that step. So I just think there's more opportunities to go. It's a solid matchup against the Colts. I know the Colts are 2-0, but I think you can still throw the ball around on them. So I like Ayumanor if you need a flex play this week.
Can I throw a couple names at you just to see like kind of where we're at on Ayumanor?
Yeah, sure.
So
And
would you play? Sorry, what was that?
I was gonna say, and the people that are like, it's Io Manor. Okay.
Yeah, it's Io Manor. I think it actually is. But would you play him or Keon Coleman?
Uh I would probably I mean, that one's it's like tough for me, but I think I would give a slight edge to Keon Coleman because I think the matchup is even better. Like I think this Dolphins team is real bad.
Okay, well that's a tonight game. So let's talk about him or his teammate Calvin Ridley.
I think I'd prefer to play Io Manor.
Okay. Um, and then I'll go for talking flex. Would you go him or Nick Chubb?
I'd probably go Io Manor.
It's a little farther than I thought you would go. I'm impressed, but I mean the volume's there.
Yeah, and I get Nick Chubb had a pretty bad week 1. He had an okay week 2 against the Falcons. He got that late touchdown to save his day. I'm just not the biggest fan of Nick Chubb in fantasy at this point in his career. So there could be some semi-biased for that. I'll be transparent.
Yeah, it's true. He didn't have a great week 1, but I mean, 14.2 points in week 2 and what was probably a bad matchup. It's going to have some people thinking about putting him in a lineup this week.
Yeah.
I think we're on to my flex start. So I have a wide receiver in this spot, and I'm going to San Francisco, and I'm going to talk about Juwan Jennings because, like I mentioned earlier, I think Jennings is the favorite target of Mac Jones. So he's the person that's going into my lineup. I still think Pearsall has some place in some people's lineups. And if you have any questions about where you think he might fit, feel free to drop your lineup questions in the comments. But my favorite target in San Francisco this week is Juwan Jennings.
I would agree with that. So I actually almost put Juwan Jennings as my guy until I saw you did. So
Got to be quicker than that.
I know. I was too slow getting my selections in this week.
Why don't we move on to sits, Cody? What do you got for your running back sit of the week?
Yeah, I have one Mr. J.K. Dobbins, and this one isn't like you have to sit him at all cost play. I just think this Chargers defense is playing really well right now. This Chargers team is playing really well right now. I think Dobbins has been hit or miss on his success, and this whole Broncos offense has looked discombobulated in general. So I just have some concerns about playing him. And I think he's one of those guys that he doesn't have a ton of high upside. You play him for that that safe floor. And I don't know if this matchup is the week to get the safe floor. So I might take a risk on somebody that, might score less, but also has like a bigger output potential.
Hey, that's very true. And I mean, he's had good numbers over the first 2 weeks, but you also have to realize he scored a touchdown in both of those games. If you take the touchdown away, he scored less than 10 in each of those. So maybe he's being elevated by the touchdown potential. And this is a good defense. If you're going to say he's not going to get one in a game, this might be the one. But I do think he's a solid option still going forward.
Yeah. And, he's currently just outside of RB2 for Fantasy Pros. If you want to go by where they're currently ranking people, they have him down at 25. Right after him is Amarion Hampton. I don't think I'd play him. It's the same matchup, both really good defenses. But then you have guys like Bill Merritt against the Raiders, David Montgomery, even though it is the Ravens. You have the Nick Chubb if you want to chase that, Ramondre Stevenson, Isaiah Pacheco. Those are some names there that it's like, there might be a little bit higher upside, or even like a Bashaw Tootin a little bit lower if you wanted to go real boomer bust option.
That's true. There's some of those guys I could be like, yeah, I would still start Dobbins. Some of those guys, maybe I would take the upside. So I kind of goes with a gut feeling when it comes to that point, or with your flex position, or I guess it even depends on your scoring. If you're talking about this for a flex and you play in a full PPR, you might lean the wide receiver too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
My running back sit of the week also came before I realized he was on the injury report, and that's Zach Charbonnet. It's funny, you said start Ken Walker. I said sit Zach Charbonnet, and I don't. Are you sitting? It looks like you are. They released their Thursday injury report. Zach Charbonnet still did not participate in practice.
Yeah, so don't play him, even if he is good to go.
I'm just surprised that we got the injury report while we're still on the air. So
honestly, it went over my head when you said you were sitting. I thought you were going to make like a joke because we were doing sits.
Oh, well, yeah, you can sit him too, and I guess you're sitting. I don't know. That sounds rude when I say it that way.
Yeah. So, but I'll move on to wide receiver. I'm going to go wide receiver Devonta Smith this week. The Eagles, their passing offense has struggled. There's no way to describe it other than they have struggled the last couple weeks. I think they had less than 100 passing yards in week 2. They got the win, and that's all that really matters. But AJ Brown has struggled. Devonta Smith has actually been better than AJ Brown when it comes to like fantasy points and production. But I think if they're going to try to put an emphasis on fixing this, they're going to try to get AJ Brown more involved before the man just reads books on the sideline full time. Since I am playing for the Eagles anymore, I got my ring, I won out. So with that said, I'm going to sit Devonta Smith this week against why did I say against when I didn't have it ready to go? Against the Rams. So it's a good matchup, although the Rams are coming east at 1:00. So keep that in mind.
West Coast team coming east at 1:00. Play them all. I'm just kidding. No, Devontae Smith has been the more involved receiver over 2 weeks over AJ Brown, but even yet he hasn't had much production. And I have a feeling, at least also, that if they're going to get the passing offense going this week, it's going to be AJ, not Devontae. So I don't mind the idea of sitting Devontae. And when you look at it, AJ has the higher upside, which is why he's still more than likely in your lineup regardless. But if this keeps happening, I think we're going to have a conversation in the panic button too on if we panic on AJ Brown. So
Yeah, even the Eagles in general, like their passing numbers have been down, so like it's hard to trust any of their passing options. Obviously, Hurts still gets a lot done with his legs, which is why he's still fantasy relevant. But we'll see if that turns around or if they're really missing Kellen Moore.
yes, I mean, the last time they made an offensive coordinator change, it was pretty rough. So we're kind of hoping it's not the same thing again. My wide receiver to sit is Jalen Waddle. I know playing Thursday, but here we are. I even said agreed with you to start him over Judkins. We had a question earlier in the show because the upsides there. It's just the inconsistency out of a lot of these wide receiver twos lately have been it's been really bad. So I'm kind of avoiding them in as many cases as I can. And again, it's not like you must sit Jalen Waddle. There's cases where if you need a boom or if you don't have a better option, I think it's fine to play him. I'm just trying to find another option.
I'm with you. And again, I agreed with you playing him over Judkins, but that's just more about how I thought about Judkins than I do Jalen Waddle.
Exactly. And your flex sit is?
One Mr. Quinshon Judkins.
Yeah.
I talked about it when we were answering Bree's question, just how well the Packers defense has been. I'm not going to chase the 6 for 60, 10-yard average game. I'll repeat it. The Packers have not allowed 100 rushing yards yet. And that's facing Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Jaden Daniels.
That's impressive, honestly, for sure.
So I don't think the rookie in his second start is going to have much success on the ground, especially when they're still like Jerome Ford still getting opportunities, Dylan Sampson still getting opportunities. Like it's not just the Judkins show. Like he was the best success guy last week, but that doesn't mean he's even going to be the guy with the most opportunities this week.
No, and I think if he does get the most opportunities, like it's a good sign moving forward that like they want to feature him, and he seemed like he has the talent and had the explosiveness to like be that guy down the road. But it's too early for me in a bad matchup to think he's matchup proof, and we're gonna really throw him out there.
I would 100% agree, and that's why he is one of my sits of the week.
And then I'm gonna go ahead and round out our sits with Jerry Jeudy. So he led their team in yardage last week. He had 8 targets, but like I feel like the ceiling is very low on Jerry Jeudy right now. They're not a great offense there in Cleveland, and he's not gonna get a lot of touchdowns unless he breaks something deep. It seems at this point they have David Njoku there. They're getting Harold Fannin involved a lot, and then obviously they want to run the ball. So the ceiling being low and then facing Green Bay is why I don't like Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, I think that's well said.
All right, Cody, why don't we talk about some more guys we want to play and do streams of the week? All right, in this segment, we're going to do a quarterback, a tight end, and a defense that are fairly widely available on most leagues that you can throw in your lineup this week. So, starting with quarterback, do you want me to go first or you?
Why don't you go first? I went first for starts and sits. You can go. You can kick this off for streams.
Sounds good. So I'm going to go to the man who has not punted yet this season, facing the Tennessee Titans, Daniel Jones. Now, I mean, there's a good chance that you had to go out there and get Daniel Jones on that first, line of waivers this week. But if you did, you can throw him in your lineup, and there's still plenty of leagues that he's available. And in a week that we need quarterbacks, he is potentially the best option with a good matchup.
I still can't trust it. I I I
You're
I just
just stuck in
I can't.
Danny fullback mode.
I 100% am. He's looked really good. Uh, Someone talked about Shane Steichen being the guy that helped, Justin Fields and not Justin Fields, Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts. Like maybe it could work on Daniel Jones, but it didn't work on Anthony Richardson. So why would you trust it to work on Daniel Jones? But he's playing really well. So I get the why you're considering playing him. I really am.
All right, who do you got that you think is better this week then?
All right. So my stream of the week is one Mr. Michael Penix Jr. as he gets to play the Carolina Panthers in a dream matchup. And honestly, I just think the matchup is too good. That's why he's my stream of the week.
Falcons are playing against
The Panthers.
Yep, that'll do it. He has been up and down through the first 2 weeks, but I don't hate playing him, especially when we need quarterbacks.
Yes, I agree with that as well. But who do you got as your stream of the week at the tight end position?
I got old reliable Zach Ertz here. Now, I know they're probably missing Jaden Daniels. Mariota showed a little connection with Ertz when they played together in relief last year, and Ertz has had a solid start. I think he's tight end 2, actually, so far on the year, behind only Tucker Kraft. So he's widely available, someone who's kind of slipped under the radar. And even with the backup quarterback, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, so I 100% agree. And I, once again, did not submit my things early enough. And this time I actually put Zach Ertz as my guy. And I was like, oh, wait, George did it. So I have to switch. So stack me a Michael Penix, Kyle Pitts Sr. this week because the matchup is so good. But out of the two, I like Zach Ertz a lot better. And I don't think I think Marcus Mariota helps favor a Zach Ertz even more than a guy like Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I almost feel like Zach Ertz and then Deebo Samuel, who's more of a gadget player, get more of a boost than Terry McLaurin does with the backup quarterback.
All righty. Before you give us our defense, can I just add a bonus option?
Yeah.
Okay, but it's not at tight end. It
Okay.
is at quarterback. I was looking up some stats because I wanted to make sure that I had this right before I said it. But if you lost Joe Burrow, Jake Browning is not a terrible option to go out and pick up this week. He does play Minnesota, but their defense has been hit or miss. They've given up some more points. It isn't as dominant as last year. And I went back and looked at his 2023 stats. He averaged 16 fantasy points per game. And he had 3 games over 20, an 18-pointer, a 19-pointer. And really it was like a week 1 that was a negative because all he did was come in and kneel the ball. That really helps pull down those points per game average. So Jake Browning is like a sneaky option. Like maybe all Joe Burrow's out. Let me try to go get one of these guys. And maybe the guy that's his backup is just the best option.
Little volatile because, like you said, gunslinger, he's going to throw a lot of picks. I think that's going to keep the points down or at least inconsistent, but I didn't realize he did that good in fantasy value last year.
Yeah, and it looks like he had 17 points last week, as probably not started anywhere, which why no one paid attention to it, but coming in relief, still put up a 17-point fantasy day.
Despite throwing 3 picks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, because he had a rushing touchdown, so basically the picks and the rushing touchdown basically cancel each other out.
Wow. Okay. Well, I like that as a little sneaky option. I'll move on to defense, and I've got the Atlanta Falcons in that quote-unquote dream matchup against the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think the only one that might be a little bit better is the Seattle Seahawks against the New Orleans Saints. Seattle's defense is playing really well right now. Their front four is getting after them. Spencer Rattler still hasn't won in the NFL, even though wins isn't a quarterback stat. But I just think they're getting sacks. They're going to get some pressure. Rattler can give them some picks, so I like that matchup a lot.
There's no denying whatever your thoughts are of the Steelers' offense. They are better than the Saints' offense, and Seattle shut the Steelers down last week.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help that your kick returner gave him a touchdown.
That has nothing to do with shutting them down, though.
I know. I'm just saying, like, makes the puts the team behind more, makes them have to throw more. There is, a domino effect of things happening. You go down by 2 touchdowns, you can't run the ball, you have to go out of your game plan a little bit. So,
Fair, okay. But Cody, before we get out of here, why don't we talk about our favorite games of the week?
do I get a bumper for that one? I don't think so.
No, you don't. You get
One
the
day,
Hummin now.
one day I'll remember to. I could just play a random bumper. That'd be
Oh,
kind of fun.
yeah, right.
I'm not going to do that. But
Oh, okay.
games of the week. Hang on, we got a bumper.
I'm a Chargers fan. I don't know what you're talking about.
George, what's your game of the week?
Broncos at Chargers. I'm a Chargers fan. I don't know what you're talking about. I just like you sometimes.
Sometimes, more like all the time.
Yeah, that's fair. I deal with you on the air just for the sake of the show.
Honestly, though, I think this is a great matchup.
Mhm.
The Chargers have looked really good. The Broncos are a little bit disappointing based on how they ended last year. Given the Bills a run for the money in the playoffs, making the playoffs, they've started out slow. Doesn't mean they can't turn around. They still have a good defense. Is this Chargers team for real? So I do really appreciate this matchup.
Well, then aren't we also a leverage personal foul penalty away from a 2-0 versus 2-0 matchup here? And like for the division lead, because the Chiefs are 0-2, like there's a lot of storylines we can talk about going through this one.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a fascinating one. Like, obviously, the Broncos winning would help the Chiefs get back into would help narrow. Obviously, I'm assuming the Chiefs are going to beat the Giants in Sunday Night Football. That's not going to be my game of the week.
If the Chiefs lose to the Giants on Sunday Night Football, you and I have a whole different conversation to have on Monday.
Yes, agreed. But yeah, this could be. But even like the Broncos, like a team that could be either 2-1 and 1-2. I know it's only a game difference, but I feel like that's always feels like a big distinction on where your team's at. So the Broncos are going to try not to lose another one. Can they bounce back after how they lost? Like thinking they had the game won, to see a yellow bandana on the ground, meaning they lost because they got to move the ball at 15 yards. So should be a fun one for sure. And in another
It
week.
should.
All right, now I have to check something because I did not look. How many games? Okay, at least we have 4 games at 4:00 this week instead of just 3. We're getting better.
We're getting better, and that is one of the 4:00 games. But what do you have as your game of the week, Cody?
All right, so I got Packers at Browns
Homer.
as my games of the week. No, I just picked that one because I'll be in the stands for that one. So I had to give a little shout out for that one. See Micah Parsons in person, looking ton of that. But that means I'm be driving back from Cleveland, so I'm not going to get to really focus in too much on those 4:00 games. I'll have to watch some rewinds of those 1:00 games. But there is one beautiful game on Monday night football. You have the Lions that bounce back against the Bears, albeit it's the Bears. The Ravens, they were upset. 2 teams that put up over 40 points the last 2 weeks, or not the last 2 weeks, last week. The Ravens have done it 2 weeks in a row. This should just be a fun game. They put up 40 points without Derrick Henry. Like, that's what's even scarier. This might be the best Monday Night Football game of the year.
This is the game that I hope lives up to another Jared Goff game that we still talk about, when it was the Chiefs Rams, supposed to be in Mexico City but wasn't, blowout 100-point game.
Yeah, I mean, I think they run the ball too much to get that close. Like, the clock just moves too fast. But this will be a lot of fun, and it's always fun to watch tomorrow in prime time. So gotta love that one.
It is. There's no arguments for me on that being our most likely shot at game of the year of the week.
All right, so we talked about our games of the week. Let's talk about the game that I could care the less about of the week, aka Thursday Night Football.
All right, tonight we got the Miami Dolphins at the Buffalo Bills, and I think the spread tells you all you need to know about how the Dolphins have started and how the Bills have started, as the Dolphins are 11.5-point underdogs, over under at 49.5. So is there a chance
to what, cover? Sure.
no win? No. No, not at
No,
all.
I mean, I guess any given Thursday. I know that's not the exact quote, but I guess you can say any given Thursday. But man, this Dolphins team has looked rough. They lost the Patriots last week. They made Danny Dimes look like an MVP quarterback. They're just struggling all. At least they got to rejoice that Tyreek Hill had a pass over 30 yards. Like, that was their big celebration point so far this season. So it's just tough out there for the Dolphins. And we made it to week 3 for there to be a Thursday night game that I'm going to debate if I'd rather watch the Game Show Network or not.
That's not that long. And it's not that, like, seeing Josh Allen in prime time is great. It's just they probably expected this to be a more competitive game, and the Dolphins have showed us pretty much nothing so far.
Yeah. It's crazy how bad this has been. And it's been a couple years since the Dolphins were even able to beat the Bills. And I don't anticipate that to change this week.
I do not either, but for anyone out there that has fantasy assets in this game, hope you do well. I still expect there to be a lot of points. Don't know which side of the ball or if it is both, hopefully, but best of luck.
I think it'd probably be a big James Cook week just because of they're probably going to get up and then be able to run the ball. So I like that.
Let's see. Maybe we'll just see a big running back game in general because the best Dolphins asset so far has been Devon Achane. So hopefully that'll continue as well.
Alrighty, George. That is basically the week 3 slate. Is there any other games you want to give a shout out to or anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
No. As a reminder, make sure you're following us and you can drop any start sit questions you missed on the show here in there. We'll see if I can also get off the schneid and be not 0-2 or not winless when we talk again on Monday in the Couch Gyms World Cup.
Oh yeah, you lost too. I got a win last week. Came back
There
and
you
won.
go. There you go.
That was good.
I basically need a championship to get in the final at this point anyway, so it's how you finish, right?
Exactly. I do want to talk. I just want to just mention one more thing about one more game. Divisional matchup: Texans at Jags. And the only reason I want to bring it up is because if the Jags do win the game, the Texans fall to 0-3, which we both picked the Texans to win that division. They haven't looked as good. CJ Stroud looks more like year 2 CJ Stroud than year 1 CJ Stroud. And there just seems to be something a little bit off, whether it's the lack of a run game. Nico Collins had a really strong start to the game and then didn't do much after that. So that's another one to keep an eye on at 1 o'clock. Just like the Jags, go up, get a division win, put the Texans to 0-3. Like, what are we hitting the panic button next week on the Texans too? Is another one we'll have to keep an eye on.
Plenty of panic buttons to already take a look at next week. And something I didn't mention in injuries, but that could be actually helpful for the Texans is Christian Kirk is expected to be back. So maybe that'll take a little pressure off of that passing game, having another guy to watch for in that secondary.
Dude, if you would have said before you mentioned that Christian Kirk is practicing, what team does he play on? I would have said the Arizona Cardinals. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't have said that. I know he hasn't been there for a while.
We had this conversation 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and that I already forgot again. So sorry, Christian Kirk. I apologize.
Get us out of here, Cody.
All right. That is my time to hit this outro music and remind you all that the Couch GMs podcast is live on Mondays and Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Make sure you come over, hit subscribe, join the conversation. And if you have questions, hit us up on social media: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all those good places at the Couch DMs. It's that simple. Thanks for checking out this week's episode. I'm Cody Roadcap. That's George Kurth. We'll talk to you all next week.